Morning, all. All right, so we've got 7 games in the National Hockey League tonight. The previews in general, I'm not going to post them too early in the morning because we don't know when there's going to be any kind of delays or anything. So if I make it a little bit later than normal, I think it allows for, if there's going to be any cancellations. Then there's still the possibility that we'll get postponements, but for right now, we got 7 games tonight, so not too bad. Starting with 3 of them at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. We do have 2 really late starts. So we start off at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific with Tampa Bay and Florida. The Battle of Florida. These are always great. October 19th, Florida won this matchup 4-1. November 13th, Tampa Bay won this matchup 3-2 in overtime. So Florida hasn't lost in regulation to the other team from Florida yet this season. 21-6-4 is the record now for Tampa. 19-7-4 is the record for Florida. And really, both records are quite good. But where they're heading in the last 10 games is a little different. In the last 10, Tampa Bay's 9-1. They've won 4 in a row. They've looked excellent for the most part. And yet, in games where it looks like they'll probably take the loss, they don't. Florida, 5-4-1 in their last 10. They did win last night, so we'll see on back-to-backs how things work out for them. And then at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, with the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. On October 21st in Montreal, Carolina won 4-1 in the first of 3 meetings between these teams. Today we'll see if Montreal wins the Battle of Kotkaniemi. So 7-21-4 is the record for Montreal over their last 10. They're 2-6-2. They did lose in overtime against Tampa. Hard-fought game, but they do take the loss. Carolina 21-7-1 over their last 10. They're 6-4. They did win their last 2 going into the break. So for Carolina, who went through a mediocre couple of weeks there, seemed to come out of it. Montreal, it's been mediocre for a while. So we'll see how things go tonight. 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific is also the start time between Nashville and Columbus. The first meeting, November 30th, that was won by Nashville 6-0. So we'll see how things go in the second and final meeting between these teams tonight. Nashville, 19-11-1 overall. Over their last 10, they're 8-2. They did lose last night. We'll see how Columbus does. They are 2-7-1 in their last 10. They lost their last 2 going into the break. They're 14-13-1 overall. So they had a good record going, and then their last 10 is kind of submarine that, but we'll see if they can get things righted. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting one. I had to decide between a couple of different jerseys I wanted to wear, because, again, it's my one, I think this team's going to win tonight. So I didn't want to go with any of the obvious picks. And so, yeah, 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. I went with the Islanders over Buffalo because, sure, why not? These teams haven't been winning a lot lately. Buffalo's kept it close in most of their games. They're 10-16-5 overall. Over their last 10, they're 2-6-2. They did lose last night in regulation to New Jersey. The New York Islanders, 8-12-6 overall. Over their last 10, they're 3-3-4. They did lose their last game in extra time, and I'm looking at this and going, well, the Islanders should win this, right? And, Buffalo on a second half of a back-to-back, a rested Islanders team, a desperate Islanders team, it should be a win for the Islanders. We'll see how it turns out. And then we get to the late games. 2.5 hours after this gets started, we get into the late games. 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, the Calgary Flames in against Seattle. Seattle coming off of the overtime loss last night against Philly. They're 10-17-4 with that. 3-4-3 over their last 10. Their last game was an overtime loss. The Calgary Flames, 15-7-6 over their last 10. They're 5-4-1. They did lose their last game going into the break. So Calgary's had some time off. And, of course, by going into the break, I mean by 20-some players ending up on the protocol list. So everybody except Tkachuk. All right. It feels that way anyways. So for Calgary, we'll see what the layoff does to them, how rusty they might be against a Seattle team that played last night. Then we get into the 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific starts. There's 2 of them then. Vancouver in against LA. Vancouver coming off of their 7th straight win last night. And so we'll see if the 15-15-2 Vancouver Canucks, who currently sit 4 points out of the playoffs, if they can get closer. Over their last 10, they're 9-1. They've won, as I said, 7 in a row. LA 14-12-5 over their last 10. They're 5-4-1. They lost their last game. LA, of course, had their big winning streak earlier in the season. So they'll look to break this one that they kind of started. The winning streak kind of started with a win over LA. It feels like months ago, but it was December 6th that Vancouver won 4-0. So it was only a few weeks ago. It just feels like it was ages ago. Then we get into the 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific start between the Philadelphia Flyers and the San Jose Sharks. For the Flyers, they're 13, 12, and 5 overall. Over their last 10, they're 5, 4, and 1. They did win 2 in a row, including the one last night. So they won their last game before the break. They won their first game out of the break. Now we'll see how they do against a San Jose team that should be playing some desperate hockey. 16, 14, and 1. They have to be, recognizing that other teams in the West are either past them or threatening to pass them. And so over their last 10, they're 5 and 5. They did win their last game. I kind of like San Jose's chances in this one because I wasn't a huge fan of Philly's game last night, but we'll see how things turn out. So let me know in the comment section below your picks for today's games. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.